I moved into Dorm B my sophomore year. It was one of those older buildings, musty hallways, beige walls stained from decades of thumbtacks and spilled coffee, and ceilings that seemed just a little too low. But it was close to my classes, and, honestly, I was just happy to have a single room to myself. No roommates, no drama. Just me and my space. My room was 308. The first time I felt something was off was the second night. I woke up around 2:30 a.m. to the sound of soft tapping. At first, I thought it was coming from the window, maybe a branch in the wind. But I realized it wasn't windy, and my room faced the courtyard, where there were no trees. The tapping wasn't random. It was rhythmic, like someone gently knocking every 5 seconds. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart beating louder than the sound. Eventually, it stopped, and I chalked it up to dorm noise, maybe the pipes, or some neighbor being weird. But the next night, it happened again. 2:30 a.m., on the dot. Tap, 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 from the wall behind my bed. And this time, I could tell it was coming from inside the wall, directly behind my headboard. I knocked back, and it stopped. I didn't sleep much that night. I tried to ignore it. I kept telling myself it was an old building, probably something with the plumbing or the heating system, but that didn't explain how consistent it was. Always at 2:30 a.m., always the same soft knock, like fingertips against drywall. By the fourth night, I had my phone ready and recorded it. You could hear the taps clear as day. I showed it to the RA, James. He was cool but not very helpful. "Dude," he said, half laughing, "these walls are paper thin. Probably just someone in 310 messing around. I'll talk to them." Room 310 was supposed to be vacant. Under renovation, they told me when I moved in. Blacked out door, construction tape, a padlock on the handle. I told James that, and his smile faded just a little. "Huh," he said. "I'll double-check with maintenance." That night the tapping didn't come at 2:30. I waited, heart racing. Lights off, blanket up to my nose, silence. I was just starting to drift off when it came, 3 short taps. But this time, not from the wall, from the inside of my closet. I froze, just stared at the door. It was cracked open an inch. I always leave it closed. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My eyes locked on that tiny sliver of blackness between the closet doors. Then it creaked, slowly, just enough to open another inch, as if someone inside was being careful not to make too much noise. I jumped up, flipped on the lights, and flung it open. Nothing. Just clothes and shoes and a duffel bag. I searched everything. Looked for holes in the walls, vents, gaps in the ceiling. Nothing. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, I skipped class and went straight to campus housing. I told the woman at the front desk I needed to switch rooms, any room. She pulled up my file and frowned. "Room 308?" she said. "That room's on a maintenance hold list. No one's supposed to be living there." "What?" She looked confused. "Hold on. Let me call someone." She got up and disappeared into a back office. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then, 15. She came back out, face pale. She gave me a form and told me to pack up and move immediately. She didn't explain why. I moved to a room down the hall, 312. Much newer, freshly painted, clean carpet. No weird sounds. 2 days later, I saw a guy from maintenance walking out of 308. I caught up with him and asked if he found anything strange. He looked at me like I was bothering him, but then he paused. "That room's sealed for a reason," he said. "Years ago, before your time here, some student found a way into the space between the walls. Crawled in through the closet somehow. Got stuck. No one noticed for days." I felt my stomach twist. Did they survive? He shook his head. No. Took him a week to find the body. Room was supposed to be permanently shut. Don't know how you got assigned to it. I asked if they ever removed that wall or blocked the crawl space. He just shrugged. Budget cuts. I still walk past. Room 308 sometimes. Doors locked again. No name on the plate. No lights from under the door. But sometimes, late at night, when I walk by coming back from the library, I swear I hear it again. That soft, slow tapping from inside the wall. It started on a normal Wednesday night during my second year at college. I lived in a dorm that was mostly quiet, except for the usual sounds of students walking back and forth. My room was on the 3rd floor, right at the end of the hall, near the emergency exit. I was just finishing a paper when I heard footsteps outside my door. That wasn't strange. People often passed by late at night. But the footsteps stopped right outside my door, not just near it, but right there. I peeked through the peephole. No one was there. I opened the door quickly and looked both ways in the hallway. Empty. The hall was dimly lit, the fluorescent lights flickering just enough to make shadows dance on the walls. I shut the door, thinking maybe someone had walked away fast. Later, I heard it again. Soft footsteps, slow, walking down the hall toward my door. Stopping. Waiting. My heart was pounding, but I told myself it was just someone late coming back from the vending machine or something. But then the door handle rattled. It was a quick jiggling, like someone was trying the knob to see if it was unlocked. I didn't open the door. I locked it and stayed frozen, listening. The handle stopped. Silence. I called my roommate Mia, who was studying in her room down the hall. "Mia, someone's messing with my door," I whispered. She said, "Are you sure? Maybe it's a prank." "No, joke," I said. We both heard footsteps fade down the hallway. I stayed awake the rest of the night. The next day, I told the dorm supervisor. She said they'd check the cameras. The cameras showed nothing. No one had walked near my door. I started to feel uneasy, like someone was watching me. Over the next week, it happened more and more. At random times, footsteps. Sometimes soft tapping on my window. My room faced the courtyard, and the windows were locked, but I could feel someone trying to get my attention. Once, I found tiny scratches on the doorframe, like fingernails had scraped the paint. I didn't tell anyone else because I was embarrassed. I thought maybe I was just imagining things. One night I stayed up late doing homework. Around 1 a.m. I heard a knock on the door. One firm knock. I didn't open. Then another knock. Harder. "Who's there?" I asked quietly. No answer. The knocking stopped, but then I heard breathing. Not outside the door, but through the thin walls. It was slow and heavy. My phone was dead, so I grabbed my laptop and typed a message to Mia. "Please come, now." She showed up 10 minutes later, knocking loudly on my door. When I opened it, she looked worried. I heard nothing. She said, "We decided to check the hallway together." We went outside my room. The hall was empty. But then we noticed it. Fresh footprints on the dusty floor, leading down the stairs. They were small footprints, like from someone wearing sneakers, but no one else was supposed to be in the building after midnight. We followed the footprints to the emergency exit. The door was unlocked. I froze. That door was always supposed to be locked. We looked outside. The courtyard was empty and dark. We went back inside and told the supervisor again. She finally took me seriously. They increased security and locked the emergency exits. For a while, the noises stopped. I thought maybe it was over. But 2 weeks later, it started again. Only this time the noises came from inside my own room. At first I heard faint whispers, so soft I couldn't tell what they were saying. I thought maybe someone was talking in the hall, but no one was. Then, things started moving on their own. My books would be knocked over. My backpack was shifted from the corner to the middle of the floor. My laptop turned on by itself once, showing a blank screen. I was terrified. I tried to sleep with the lights on, but every time I closed my eyes, I imagined someone standing in the corner of the room, just watching. One night, I woke up to a cold breath on my neck. I jumped up, but no one was there. My window was still locked. I started sleeping at Mia's place. We even stayed with friends sometimes. But every time I came back to my room, the strange things started again. One night, I stayed up all night, sitting by the door with my phone ready to call for help. At 3 a.m., I heard the door creak. It opened just a little. I didn't move. The light from the hall spilled inside, and then I saw it. A shadow, standing just beyond the doorframe. Tall. Still. Watching me. Wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow stepped back into the hall and disappeared. I locked the door and called campus security. They searched the building. No one was found. No signs of forced entry. Nothing. I moved out a week later. But I never forgot the feeling of being watched. Sometimes when I'm alone at night, I swear I still hear footsteps outside my door. And I wonder, was it ever really someone else? Or was it something else? Something darker, that hides in the silence. I never thought a bathroom could scare me. But after what happened during my first semester in the dorm, I'm not so sure. The dorm was old, built in the 70s, creaky floors, stained tiles, flickering lights. Our bathroom was down the hall, shared by 20 students on the floor. It was nothing fancy, but it worked, except the lock. The lock on the bathroom door was broken. Not in a way where it stayed open, but where sometimes it would just get stuck, locked from the inside, with no way to open it. At first, it seemed like a minor problem. One night, my friend Sarah was using the bathroom. I was waiting outside for her to finish so I could get in. After a while, I heard banging. "Sarah?" I asked. No answer. I knocked louder. Still nothing. I tried the door handle. It was locked tight. "Sarah, are you okay?" I was starting to panic. After a minute, the banging stopped. Then, muffled voice. "Help. Can you call someone?" I pulled out my phone and called campus security. While waiting, I paced nervously. After what felt like forever, the door finally unlocked with a loud click. Sarah stepped out, pale and shaking. She said, "The lock jammed." I was stuck in there for almost 30 minutes. We reported it, and the dorm staff promised to fix the lock. But the lock was never properly fixed. Weeks later, the same thing happened to me. I went to the bathroom around midnight after studying. When I finished and tried to open the door, it didn't budge. I pulled, twisted, but it stayed locked. I called out, "Hello? Can anyone open this door?" No answer. My phone was with me, but I was alone. Panic set in. I tried to stay calm. I pounded on the door and shouted for help. I even tried to squeeze through the tiny gap under the door, but it was too narrow. Minutes felt like hours. The hallway was quiet. No footsteps, no voices, just silence. Then I heard something else. A whisper. Soft and low, right outside the door. "Don't come out." My heart stopped. I looked around but saw nothing. I shouted again, louder this time. No response. I remembered the emergency alarm button near the stairs. I managed to press it with my foot. Soon, I heard footsteps rushing. Campus. Security arrived. They unlocked the door easily. I ran out, gasping for air. But as I left, I looked back and saw the bathroom door close slowly, by itself. I shivered. The next day, I asked around if anyone else had trouble with the bathroom. Almost everyone had a story about the lock jamming, strange noises, or even doors opening and closing by themselves. One guy said he saw someone locked in once, but when security arrived, no one was inside. Another girl said she heard whispering late at night near the bathroom. I started to avoid that bathroom as much as I could. But one night, the horror hit a new level. I was studying late in my room when I heard screaming. It was coming from the bathroom hallway. I ran out and saw a crowd gathered near the bathroom door. One girl was crying, saying she'd been locked inside for over an hour. Her hands were scratched, her face pale. They had to break the door down to get her out. She said something even worse. She told us she heard voices inside the bathroom, whispers calling her name, telling her to stay. She said the bathroom was alive, like it wanted to trap her forever. I laughed nervously at first, but then I noticed the marks on the walls, scratches, as if someone had tried to claw their way out. The bathroom was closed for repairs after that. But during the repair, workers found something chilling. Behind the tiles, they discovered old graffiti. Words scratched into the wall decades ago. Don't trust the lock. It hides what's inside. Never get trapped. I still don't know what that meant, but I won't go near that bathroom anymore. Sometimes, when I pass by the hall at night, I swear I hear soft knocking from behind the door, and sometimes faint whispers. It was my third week living in the dorm, and things were mostly normal. Classes were tough, but I enjoyed the freedom of college life. My room was small but cozy, and my roommate, Jake, was usually quiet and kept to himself. One night, around midnight, I woke up to the sound of the door creaking open. At first I thought it was Jake coming back from the bathroom or a late-night snack, but when I looked, the door was just slightly open. The hallway outside was dark and empty. I sat up and called softly, "Jake?" No answer. I got up and the door slowly shut on its own. I thought maybe it was just the old hinges creaking or the wind, so I went back to bed. Minutes later, the door creaked open again. This time, I stayed awake and watched. A shadow moved in. The hallway, small, quick. I felt a chill run down my spine. Suddenly, the door handle jiggled. I froze. Then I heard a whisper, barely audible. "Let me in." My heart was pounding. I jumped out of bed and locked the door. Then I heard footsteps running away down the hall. The next day, I told Jake about it. He laughed. "You're imagining things." But I knew what I heard. That night, I stayed up waiting. At around 1:30 a.m., I heard knocking on the door. Soft, slow knocks. I called out, "Who is it?" No answer. Then a voice, low and almost breathless. "Please, open up." I didn't move. The knocking stopped, but I heard soft footsteps pacing outside my door. I grabbed my phone and called campus security. The line was busy. I tried again. Still busy. I was alone. The footsteps stopped. I waited in silence, heart racing. Then, a faint tapping at the window. My window faced the dorm courtyard. It was locked. I looked outside but saw nothing. Then I heard whispering. So soft I could barely understand. "Open, please." I pulled the curtains shut and locked the window again. The whispering stopped. I stayed awake the rest of the night, too scared to sleep. The next day, I checked the security cameras in the hallway with the dorm supervisor. Nothing unusual showed up. No one was near my door. But the feeling didn't go away. For the next week, every night, The knocking and whispering returned. It always stopped when I tried to call for help. One night, I decided to confront whoever was there. I unlocked the door slightly and peeked out. No one. But the hallway light flickered, and then I heard a voice right behind me whisper, "Don't be afraid." I spun around. Nothing. I ran to Jake's room and stayed there until morning. Jake finally believed me. We checked my door together. There were tiny scratches near the lock, too small to be from the door itself. Someone had been trying to get in. That's when I realized this wasn't random. Someone had been watching me, maybe even following me. I told campus security again. They said they'd patrol the hall more often, but the patrols didn't help. One night, I was alone in the room when I heard the door creak. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I opened my eyes slowly. The door was open a little. The hallway was empty. I stepped out. Down the hall, I saw a figure. Tall, hunched. It turned and disappeared. Into the shadows. I ran back inside and locked the door. That was the last straw. I packed my things and moved to a different dorm. But even now, months later, I feel like someone is still outside my door. Watching. Waiting. Sometimes, when I'm alone, I swear I hear knocking and a whisper, "Let me in." It was the middle of fall semester when the new guy showed up in our dorm. Room 204, right next door to mine. I didn't know much about him at first. The RA just said he was a transfer student, here for a semester. Quiet, kept to himself mostly. But I noticed something strange right away. He never left his room during the day. I mean, the hallways were empty for hours. No classes, no friends, no visitors. Sometimes I'd hear noises, low murmurs, weird thumps like furniture being dragged. One night, around 2 a.m., I was getting water from the sink down the hall. That's when I saw him. The door to 214 was open just a crack. His face was pale, eyes sunken. He looked at me, but didn't say a word. Just nodded slowly and closed the door. I got the feeling he didn't want to be seen. Days passed, and I tried to ignore it. But then strange things started happening in the hall. First, people's belongings went missing. A backpack here, a laptop charger there. No one knew who was taking them. One of my friends said she heard footsteps outside her door at night. But when she looked, no one was there. I started to think the new guy was involved. I told my roommate, but he shrugged it off. "Maybe he's just weird," he said. One evening, I was studying late when the lights flickered. Suddenly my doorbell, the buzzer outside my room, rang 3 times. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole, nobody. Just the dark hallway. I opened the door carefully, nothing there. But on the floor was a small, folded piece of paper. I picked it up and read, "You shouldn't trust him." My heart pounded. Who wrote this? And why? The next day, I asked around. No one knew anything. The new guy didn't talk to anyone. I decided to keep an eye on him. That night, I heard the faint sound of music coming from his room. A slow, eerie tune, like something from an old record player. Wasn't sure if I should knock or just stay quiet. Suddenly, I heard a soft whisper through the door. "Help me." I stepped back, frozen. The voice was weak but clear. I thought about calling the RA or campus security, but something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe I didn't want to get involved. Days later, the rumors started. People said strange. Smells were coming from room 204, like something rotten, but no one knew what. Some students avoided the hallway completely at night. One morning, I saw the new guy leave his room carrying a small box. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. I watched him walk down the hall, then stop and look around nervously. He quickly stuffed the box into his backpack and disappeared out the front door. That night, I heard shouting. Loud, angry voices echoing through the dorm. I opened my door and looked out. I saw 2 security guards talking to the new guy in the lobby. He looked upset but didn't say much. The next day, the new guy's room was empty. No furniture, no boxes, no sign he was ever there. I asked the RA what happened. She said he left suddenly, no warning, no explanation. But the strange things didn't stop. People still whispered about missing items, and sometimes, at night, students said they heard whispers coming from the empty room. I never went near 204 again, but sometimes, when I walk by, I swear I hear faint music. That slow, eerie tune, and a soft whisper. Help me.